Right then. Well, that's John Book. Let's move on to Daejeon. Well, this is not what I expected from the start of the season, but like you said, Matthew, it's the reality. You've got to face reality.
Indeed. Well, what is that reality, Paul? Because the fantasy was obviously Champions League berth and all glory for Daejeon Hana Citizen, but they are bottom of the table. They've had a manager change. Hwan Sung-hong, he's back. Is he the right appointment though, Paul?
No, I mean but he is better than most of the names that were rumored, and he was one of a few names that were mentioned. There was him. There was Park Geun-ha, which I was dead against. There was Park Hang-seo, which I was dead against. Kim Do-hoon was mentioned briefly, but then the awful timing of it was that the KNT needed a caretaker, so he went and he took Park Geun-ha with him as one of his assistants. So that took those out of the equation. So by losing Kim Do-hoon as an option, obviously that was disappointing. It also meant me avoided Park Geun-ha, so I was kind of okay. There's swings and roundabouts there. Park Hang-seo apparently turned it down. Apparently, he was the favorite, and he spoke to his family about it. Apparently, and then he just said, "I don't think it's for him." Thank God. So Hwang Sung-hong
Like,
was
where?
given it. Yeah,
Daejeon, where?
who?
Sorry.
Whereabouts in Vietnam is that? No.
Yeah.
So anyway, so then there was obviously Hwang, and I'm led to believe that the sort of, what would you call him? The chairman. The basically he's the guy who controls Hana Financial Group, who's basically the club chairman. Ham Young-ju, he's a big fan of Hwang Sung-hong. I think he liked him when he was a player, and I think there was a feeling from within of a little bit of sort of, I'm sorry for him being sacked the first time, because he was. I said at the time 4 years ago, 4 and a bit years ago, that he was 4 years ago, that he was harshly sacked. Obviously, we've said a lot of things about Hwang Sung on this podcast. Lots of our guests have said things about Hwang on this podcast. But he was doing an okay job. We were fourth in K League 2, and we'd just beaten Bucheon 1-0 at home, and then he got sacked. Now, results were, it was not consistent, but we were still there. We were in the playoffs, and it was fine for our first season. I think they thought you have to do it in this first season, and obviously, as it turned out, it took 3 seasons. But is he the right man? No, but I'm encouraged with what I've seen in spells. Certainly not the weekend's game against Suwon, that was atrocious. What's to stop him from leaving like last time? Well, the thing is, when I look back at the squad, the very first Daejeon Hana squad, there's a lot of rubbish in there, to be honest. There's a lot of, they just bulk bought players. They took about 6 players from the Dragons, for example, and you have to look at where they are now, because a lot of them are playing in K3 and even lower. So it's like you can kind of see, the only real quality is Park Jin-sop, who's obviously hit John Book. There's not many others that have gone on to do better than us. So yeah, it's a strange one. I was against it. Not against it. I just thought it wasn't ideal, but he was better than the other options, really.
Yeah. I mean, are the signs of life since he's been back? Because it's been a few games now since his return to Daejeon.
Yeah, his first game was against Pohang away and got off to a good start. We went 1-0 up. It was an own goal, but it was a decent move. And Kim Sung-dae was basically there to tap it in if it hadn't been gone in as an own goal. And we played quite well. And then we beat Gwangju, came back from a goal down to beat Gwangju late on. And it was just, plenty of fight. And it seemed like we had a bit of a plan. And then obviously after that, things have been a little bit rough. Obviously, we lost the last 2, lost away at Gimcheon, which you'd expect. Gimcheon are top of the league now, for goodness sake. So, you'd have taken a draw against them there. And then Suwon FC at home, it was awful. It was just lethargic. It was cumbersome. We were predictable. It was dreadful. It was really dreadful. And that was probably the result I could have handled because Suwon FC are having a good season. But the manner of the defeat, that we just kind of sleptwalked to a 2-0 defeat, that made me feel quite concerned about what had happened, what the reality is, because results elsewhere went in our favor. Daegu and Incheon lost both the last two games. So it means that not much has really changed in the bottom four in terms of getting out into sort of absolute safety. So we've missed these opportunities to drag ourselves out of it. And that performance was shocking. And similar to what you said about John Book, because it was so bad, there's an excuse now to really sort of make some changes, because the middle two of Lee Sun-min and Ju Se-jong just doesn't work. They're too similar. And Ju Se-jong is his captain now. Lee Sun-min gave up the captaincy. He wants to focus on getting sort of fully match fit. He's had a bit of a problem with injuries this season. So of those two, obviously you would think that Ju Se-jong would start. We need a bit of creativity in there, basically. So I just hope we see something. And it might that might then be a bit of a sort of tweaking formation, because it's been a 3-4-3. Apart from the game against Suwon, it was more of a 5-4-1 and then a 4-4-2. But it's been a 3-4-3 for the most of the time. And that can work, but you got to have somebody in the middle who's a bit attacking. And when we've got two defensive players who like to sit and spread passes, there's a bit of a gap between the front three and the midfield.
Yeah, well, I mean, speaking of players to fill in there as well, like there's actually been a couple of returns, a couple of new signings that have come in. One of the players that have come back through the door is Masatoshi Ishida. Surely that's like a boost, because he played so well last season.
Massive boost. I think even just for the fans, just it signals a little bit of hope. He was such a popular player. The fans loved him, and he was good. He was very good. Good, certainly when he's played in his correct position. But he is what they need. They need a maverick. He's a bit of he's someone who can just sort of create a bit of magic from nothing. Can get on the ball, be positive, get in there on the play nice little passes around the corner, link the sort of midfield to the attack. He is what they need. Hopefully he's fit enough to play. He wasn't fit enough to play against Suwon. And there's this obsession with like being 100% match fit, I think, with especially foreign signings.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I think? And it's like, just no one's ever going to be 100%. You got to just get the best out of him for as long as you can. If that means you play him for a half, you play him for an hour, maybe, then just do that. But we need to, and we can't. I think we should start him, because if we put him on in the second half, by that point we could already be behind and trying to get back into the game. So it's too much of a risk then to not start him. I'd certainly give him a half and see how he feels. And the adrenaline of being back and that kind of stuff might just get him through 45 minutes to an hour. So hopefully, I think if I was picking the team, he'd be going straight in central midfield with the ball. I'd have Ju Se-jong kind of dropping back so that it allows Massa to go forward, and it kind of creates a 4-1-3-2 kind of thing. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Well, he joins with a couple of other players, one of those being Incheon United's Chong Song-hun. Bit of an interesting move to see this one come through for Daejeon. Is this a case of weakening relegation rivals, Paul, or how do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly an interesting one. Obviously, Hwang has worked with him before with the Korea under-23s. So I think it ticked a lot of boxes. It's someone that is obviously good. He had a good education. He spent time in Germany with Augsburg.
Mm-hmm.
He's someone who Hwang has worked with before. He's someone who can play as a striker, and we obviously are lacking in numbers. We've had a lot of injuries to forward players. and he wasn't playing at Incheon. He'd fallen down the pecking order there. So we offered good money for him. We're giving him first team football, and like I say, there's a familiarity there with Hwang, and obviously he must obviously like working with Hwang to a certain extent because obviously he wouldn't have come otherwise. Scored on his debut, and yeah, there is that obviously that bonus that it does weaken Incheon, or certainly takes away a little bit of competition from Magosa. But yeah, I think he's a good signing. He looked very good against Gwangju. Scored a very nice goal. He was lost and isolated in the game since then. Players aren't getting close enough to him. In that 3-4-3, obviously it's going to be wingers playing out wide, but no one's really getting close enough to him. And then with no attacking midfielder as well, there's no one anywhere near him really. So that needs to be looked at. Try to find a way to get the best out of him and get other players playing off him and playing around him.
Oh yeah, I mean, Incheon have also been busy with Incheon. Sorry, apologies. Daejeon rather. Well, you are, in the relegation scrap, so it is easy to mix the two up.
Yeah,
so strong book. But yeah, you have been signing other players as well. I know some business has gone through today. I believe is it Kim Min-woo signed today?
Yeah. Who's also worked with Hwang before at under 23 level, and he's someone who can play left back, can play in midfield, bit of a utility man. He could play at left back. We've got injuries at left back, so he's obviously one for the future because he's young and he's obviously played in Germany. He was at Dusseldorf with their sort of second string, so someone for the future definitely, but someone who I think could come in and fill in as and where that they're needed at the moment because they need bodies. Their injury list is longer than a Leonard Cohen song. It's unbelievable. Like it's just. I was looking at you could put together a good 11 of players that are out injured, and now even the goalkeeper's injured. Even our first choice keeper's injured. He's got injuries all over the pitch. We gambled on Gutek. We sold Thiago because we got a profit on him and because we think, well, we've got Gutek, he's a better all-round player. But mismanagement has meant that he's injured again. He came back from Latvia on international duty, and instead of resting him, having flown halfway across the world, he starts and then he falls awkwardly and he's out until I think August. And all the problems you've had, poor judgment from the manager as well, just in the way that we've, not just the manager, but the club in general, allowing so many key players from last year to leave. That's also been a problem. I think we lost a lot of goals. Massa's back now, but there's always that risk, isn't there? When someone comes back, will they be the same? Greedy agents as well, to be honest. I think Thiago, I'll have to check my Instagram DMs and the dates on them, but Thiago told me that his agent was speaking to people, other clubs, way before the end of the season last year. That they were, because there were rumours, weren't there? Last year, at the end of last year, about John Butt being interested. And I asked him, and he just said, well, agent is speaking to different clubs. Just, you can't always just sort of be that lucky. You go, Gyeongnam, you score a lot of goals. You move to Daejeon, you score a lot of goals. It's not always going to work like that. You can't always. Life doesn't work like that, And another agent, I think, badly advised one of our key players, the agent of Cho Yu-min. I've talked about him before, leaving 2 weeks before the season began. He was our captain. And he was so important to us that it meant that our entire philosophy was thrown out the window. Our whole way of playing out from the back. We're going to shift to a 4, not a 3, and go from a team that counterattacks to a team that likes to dominate possession. That was gone with the season just 2 weeks around the corner. And he went to where? The UAE? Why? If it was Europe, anywhere in Europe, you can understand, but he's not going to improve as a player. This is someone who's trying to break into the full national team, and he played it, didn't he? Those 2 games in June against Singapore and China. He started in those games because obviously Kim Min-jae is injured. So obviously he's very highly rated, but he's someone who is at that age now where I think 26, 27 maybe, 26. He's at a very pivotal time in his career where it could go either way. And he's not going to improve as a player in the UAE. You could argue that he's not going to improve in the K League that much. But if you're going to move anywhere, you might as well move somewhere in Europe. So agents have obviously had a say. We've gambled on a striker, then it hasn't paid off. Injury record. What is going on behind the scenes? Because how are we getting so many injuries? I don't really know exactly what they all are, whether it's muscle injuries or fatigue or what, I don't know. But basically what we've got now is we've got all we can hope for, especially after that Suwon loss in the performance, is that we just have to avoid finishing bottom and try our luck in the playoffs. I don't think we've got enough in us to be finishing ninth. I just don't think we're going to finish. I just don't think it's possible. We're signing players, and we need them now. We need Kim Min-wan now. We need Massa now, but they're not fit, and it's just going to be a case of like running out of time. Maybe it gets to late September, and then we finally get a bit of form, and then obviously it's too late, and then obviously it's a split, and then every game's a cup final. But it's just shocking. The only positives really were Yoon Do-young, the 17-year-old, who's our only real threat against Suwon, the only one who looked like he was really trying, had any urgency. He should be playing, I think, on Sunday, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he plays and how he can impact on the game. But we have to make the most of this opportunity of playing against a team who are... There's only one more team in this league who are lower on confidence than us, and it's Jeonbuk. And that is the only reason why I would have any hope about getting a result this Sunday is because of the manner of Jeonbuk's defeat. That's the only and you can't rely on other people. That's a very dangerous game to play, but that's the reality of it. We have to take inspiration from it somehow, pick ourselves up, and hope that they've been working hard on the training ground this week and they've managed to find some confidence from somewhere, because it's a pretty desperate situation.
So then let's just get straight to the point. And how does Hwang Sung-hong approach the match at the weekend, and how do you see it playing out?
It's got to be positive, got to be attacking, and I think that's what he will do. He said in his I think halftime team talk, or certainly pre-match team talk against Pohang on the first game, he was saying that if you try to defend for a full game, you will lose. There's no point in doing that. You have to attack. You have to try and have a go. And I think they will do that. They're at home. They're going to have a go, but they're going to have to be energetic. They're going to have players in there who are going to be energetic. Players who are going to take the ball forward, be brave. Now, the exuberance of youth and that fearlessness, Yoon Do-young probably will have to having to rely on a 17-year-old, but that's just that's the reality of it. He's our main creative outlet at the moment, certainly one that's fit. So that's, I think, in terms of tactics and formation, you might want to go with a 3-4-3 again. Certainly a back three. We haven't really got the personnel to play more than one up front. Wide players, again, we've got injuries, and Park Jong-in hasn't looked that great since the couple of cameos that he's played after signing on loan from Seoul Eland. I don't know. Yeah, I think the only thing I can really think of, because the injuries are so bad, that the only really thing I can think of is putting Massa in the middle with Ju Se-jong, and maybe even hope that Kim Min-wan is fit to play right wing back. Probably not, but maybe Kang Yun-song on the right wing back, and then maybe the new lad Kim Min-woo at left wing back. I think Park Jin-song's also injured again, and then up front, Chon Song-hoon has to play. obviously. I think Umlapa, he can't really. He slows things down too much, and he's definitely a plan B. But if we can get balls into him off, late on in games, if we're trying to seal the win or whatever, then maybe we can go that kind of route. But we just have to be brave. It's a do or die kind of game. We can't afford to be cautious and defensive. You have to go for it, because if we can win and get a 5-point cushion over 12th, then that'll be massive. Psychologically, that will be massive. But there's just so many injuries that the team kind of picks itself, to be honest.